Good evening. I'm Peter Williams. I'm from Alberta, and I'm one of the founding directors of the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, and I'm also the original chair of the Investment Committee. I'm going to refer to the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation as the AIOC, so please forgive me for that acronym. Before explaining what the AIOC is all about, indulge me just for a moment to imagine a reconciliation program, a kind of dream-like reconciliation plan that is government-enabled, but First Nations and industry-led, that in a short period of time could catalyze 4 separate business partnerships that would generate an estimated $1.2 billion of income over the next 30 years that's predictable, steady, and secure for 27 Indigenous communities and their 61,000 members. Also imagine with me that that 1.2 million is generated from stable businesses on commercial terms, from deals negotiated not by government, but between First Nations and private and public industry. And finally, that the cost to the taxpayer is negligible. And I make this point because it's important. The fact that the cost to the taxpayer is negligible means that this dreamed-up reconciliation program I'm asking you to imagine transcends all ideologies and potential leanings. The NDP will love it, and they do. The Liberals love it, and they do. And the Conservatives who thought it up love it too. That, in a nutshell, is the AIOC program to date, with a basket of material reconciliation projects yet to come. This program is elegant, it's repeatable, and it empowers First Nations and industry alliances on terms established by them. Again, not by the government. With the result that First Nations have a credible platform around which they can become full partners and participate in the bounty of our rich nation. It sounds, if I sound like a cheerleader, I am. I genuinely believe in the framework of this program. I have been immersed in it for over 4 years now, and I've seen with my own eyes what it is capable of. Full disclosure, though, my wife tells me I'm an enthusiast at heart, so bear that in mind and weigh it in the balance. In my opinion, this program turns the inaction and never-ending talk about economic reconciliation into action, or reconciliation. And our sincere hope is that each province and the federal government will embrace what started out as an AIOC aspiration. That is now a tried and true model for economic reconciliation. With adoption across Canada, I estimate the model can and will amplify the current economic reconciliation by factors of 10, 20, or 30 times what's been accomplished thus far. So let me just back up just a little bit for context. 3 years ago, the Alberta government formally set up the AIOC, and a team of us had been working on it prior to its setup, drafting the mandates and the whole framework, with a mandate to enable First Nations to access capital for Indigenous-led investments in natural resources, agriculture, transportation, telecommunications, and related infrastructure. The idea was powerful. It recognized that the missing piece in Indigenous participation was access to capital. No capital, no participation. This program created a bridge to capital, not by lending it, but by offering government guarantees to commercial banks to fund the First Nations equity investments, all on commercial terms and very low risk. Earlier, I mentioned the importance of the cost to the taxpayer being negligible as critical. I now emphasize that so too is the low-risk element critical. Programs like this only survive as long as there are no train wrecks. A failure or two run the risk of relegating the model to just another failed government program. And even more importantly, low risk means First Nations can rely on the income. They can count on it, knowing that with certainty that it will be there for the next 30 or more years. When we started out at the AIOC, we weren't exactly sure how it would all unfold. With each transaction, there were learnings, and what our role would be, what the role of First Nations would be, and what the role of industry would be. Gradually, it took shape. Now we have wonderful precedents that have been spoken to in terms of the Enbridge deal as a really good example. But we have these models, and we've taken the fear out of the concept. And there was so much fear at the outset. Structures set up thus far have had universal buy-in from First Nations, Métis communities and settlements, and no large part because they've been integral in setting those frameworks up themselves. Corporate Canada now has precedent transactions that they can refer to that have been mentioned, that they love a precedent. And the banks and the bond markets have confidence as well and are anxious to participate. The only laggard in the whole process have been other governments in our great country. But they are waking up to the possibilities as set by this institution. It is said that the secret of getting ahead is getting started. I believe that what the AIOC has started will be and already has been a major catalyst to economic reconciliation getting ahead, and getting ahead with the scale and impact that economic reconciliation requires and aspires to. Thank you.